Okay, so here we are with no to retreat, just about ready to start. I found the extra blitz marker. I was mistaken, there's only 3 of these. You only ever need 3 because no one ever has more than 3 shock or blitz markers. And yes, I let some time go by and now we got kind of the yellowish map from my wonderful lighting solution. Alright, it's not really obvious from here, but maybe this is a light enough map that it'll show it better than it normally does. Okay, I've dealt out my cards to the Germans, and one of the things they have to do is kind of contemplate what they have. They have a whole handful of 6 cards. I want to point something out though. First of all, this is the symbol that says, hey, these cards get removed in 1945. Secondly, we got these other symbols here. For example, this can only be played, now this is a Russian event, so it can only be played by the Russian player, but it can only be played as an event if we're in the German initiative period. And let's see if we've got, we don't have the alternative, but there's a red star for events that can only be played when it's Soviet initiative. I want to kind of look at my cards and think about them a little bit, but before I actually start playing, I'll do that. And I'll also want to clarify a couple of points about the board, about the starting scenario. So each of the starting units for the Germans has a little letter code, and that restricts their movement and combat capabilities. So the entire R, the Romanian front, that can't move in the first turn, but it is allowed to attack. Over here, the S here is only allowed to attack this unit on the first turn. The C's are only allowed to hit this unit in the first turn, and the N's are only allowed to hit this unit on the first turn. Just some minor restrictions. I'm not sure how important they really are, but they divert your forces and make sure that you use them in somewhat historical opening, I guess. Anyway, I'll take a look at my cards, and then I'll make my movement and launch my attacks. I wish I had caught it before I did it, but one of my cards had some red text saying it's play immediately card. Normally when you draw those, and you draw your cards one at a time and look at them, they immediately take effect. In this case, because it's the beginning of the game and it's the first hand dealt, they're actually just reshuffled in, so I had to grab a new card in replace for it. I look at my cards, and there's a couple I like. The first time I played this, I got nothing that I wanted. Knights Crosswearers, you can make either player re-roll a die roll. Expert Leaders, before rolling a die, you can roll 2 dice and choose one. These are nice cards. I may want to actually use these in my opening game just because I'm only allowed to hold a couple of cards, and I have a couple of nice cards that I do want to hold. Backhanded Blow allows me to remove counter blow markers from Soviet units. I won't be facing any of those this turn, so I definitely can't play that now. The Soviets have no cards to do counter blows, but later I might. And Production Problems, canceling a Soviet unit improvement or replacement. The other thing is, I have a couple of cards I can't use for their events, or I don't want to. Elastic Defense, I can allow one of my units to retreat from a Soviet attack, and Hedgehogs, both sides roll a die, and the loser takes a step loss. Neither of those really apply to my position. They're not things I want to play. So I'm going to put them also in my pile of things I'm not going to play. But here's the thing. Normally, you get to use these cards to do something. But at this stage in the game, the Germans don't have anything they can do with those cards, really. Now, if there's counterattacks next turn, if the Russians are putting themselves along my locations, I can use a couple of these guys, for example, that are useless cards to me, in my opinion, at this moment, to create counterblows. But I doubt that the Russians are going to attack, so I'm just kind of putting it in my pile of I'm not too interested in that. These guys I'm going to try to use up and burn through because I do want to hold the other 2. But the other things I could do with cards, restoring units, let's see, removing disruption markers, rail movement, all of this is forbidden on this first turn. The only thing I'm going to be able to do is counter blows that I can think of on the Russian turn. So I'll put these here and hold on to them and keep them in mind. I'll make my movement. So I've got a problem. Remember, the zone of controls are kind of sticky. So let's go here. 1, That's only 1. I can't really shoot through, so I'll just go here. I have stacking available, but I don't really need it. Over here, the Caucasus front. I can come 1, 2. I can only go to there. Put these guys there. There really aren't a lot of options here. 1, 2, 3. That's kind of nice. 1, 2. See, I can walk through him and then go into a non-zone hex, which is kind of nice. So I'm able here to kind of cut off his retreat. He's still got the ability to fly up into the woods. Over here, this guy's cut off. He has no retreat available. And that's the name of the game, right? All right. Well, let's make sure I've done everything that I'm supposed to. I think I have. The only things I have left, I have this airplane to place at the end of my movement, and I have these blitz markers to place. And those are my big options, and I have my die roll modifiers. So let me think where my odds are. Here I have 2 to 1. That's pretty lousy. The 2 strength isn't going to help there. Oh, I gotta place my attacks too. I'm obviously going to make an attack everywhere. This is just kind of a formality on this first turn, but later it becomes more important to follow the rules. 11 to 3, that's only 3 to 1, that's not perfect. 10, 21 to 4, that's 5 to 1, that's pretty good. So I'm going to commit my blitzes probably everywhere but there. 8, 15 to 5, that's 3 to 1, that's no good. I want my shifts here. And let's see, 6 to 3 is 2 to 1, that's not going to be helped. This I'm not going to get any help for. 10, 21, 2 extra strength points isn't going to help me there. And 11, well, I'll put my extra strength points and I'll give it to the Panzer. It just gives it a little bit extra defense. You might argue, well, why give it to the Panzer? Because it's probably going to be the furthest forward, the most likely thing that the Russians might want to attack. I could be wrong there. It certainly has a higher strength, so it's harder for them to hit. And now let me commit my attacks. The difficult attack is this one. I want to do that first, and I'm going to play my expert leaders. And these are the wonderful dice that come with the game. Your GMT high-quality precision dice. So I'm going to try to get used to using this chart because this one doesn't work for the Russians, and I don't have 2 of me sitting here. So what was my odds here? It's only 2 to 1. With a shift in my favor makes 3 to 1, but let's take a look at the river line. That also provides a penalty. So I'm really at 2 to 1 here. And that's not fantastic. So I need a good die roll. And I get a couple of die rolls. 3 would give me an exchange. I don't really want to do that. Although the Romanian step might be neat to lose, I'd rather do the Defender Shattered. And according to the way the rules work, this has to retreat first, and then it goes into the Shattered Units box. If it couldn't retreat, it would be surrendered. And now I'm allowed to do an advance, and I can do an extra hex. So I'll grab that extra hex this way, and I can get my attack out of there. Now I can go on to another attack, and I can keep working my way up. And as I need it, I can use this card if I need it. Okay. Here I have 15 to 5. That's 3 to 1. So the question here is, I'm not going to be able to cut this unit off no matter how I retreat and no matter what I do. I might have been able to cut that unit off. So if so, I was foolish in not putting it in the surrender box. But we'll see. But this unit is definitely not going to be able to be retreated. So I've got 3 to 1 with a shift in my favor, plus 4 to 1. And I get a 1. That's an exchange. I don't like that. I'm going to re-roll that. And I get a 2. That doesn't sound too good either. That's a Defender Retreat. the defender falls back a couple of hexes, and he's in fairly good shape. And now I can do an advance as so. And here's the thing, I can move my panzers an extra hex because it's clear weather and they can keep going. So I've pushed forward. This is about to be expected, I guess, except maybe I should have had that unit surrender. I'm not someone who's very good at keeping track of things. This one I've got surrounded, so I'll hit this. 11, 21 to 4, that gives me 5 to 1. Oh, you know what I forgot? I had a shift in my favor here because of the panzers. Oh, what did I have? I had 3 to 1. I had a shift to 4 to 1. And then it would have gone to 5 to 1. I think I wouldn't have used my card because I would have gotten a defender retreat anyway. Are these better? I'll leave it as it is. Say I tried to re-roll. 21 to 4 is 5 to 1. That gives me a shift to 6 to 1 because of the armor. 6 to 1 is 3. And by the way, the armor, you check, hey, it's open terrain. There's no other limitations that apply. Okay, so I rolled a 3 on the 6 to 1 table, and that gets me a defender shattered. But he's got a problem. He's got nowhere he's allowed to retreat. So into the surrendered unit box he goes. Bang! Okay, more than that, I get a victory point for that. And now I get to advance. And I don't know, that doesn't really help me. I'll go to Minsk. And well, we'll keep the line here. I think I'd actually rather switch these two. Okay, and Minsk is mine now too. That's a victory point city, so I get a victory point here. I didn't count this one in, so I get 2 actually. This is going to be the running total of all the victory points, including the ones on the circle. You kind of got to be careful to make sure that they add up correctly, but you can fix that as needed. So this is 11, 12, 13 to 3 is 4 to 1. I have armor that puts it to 5 to 1. I have a blitz that puts it to 6 to 1. There's no terrain there. And I get a crappy 1 that's a defender retreat. And the defender can jump up and make it to Riga. And that's not a good thing for me. So, I'll move and continue. Move and continue. Move, continue, continue. I could cross this river line, but that would kind of expose my front a little bit. The air support stays on it. And now for the end of the German turn, I'd remove certain markers at this point, and then detraining. And now I go over to the Soviet side of the turn, and I always kind of like this for solo play, especially because it helps me remember if I want to take a break like I do. And a short break it was. I just went, clipped a couple of counters, came back. Chance to catch my breath. Alright, so now for the Russian player turn, I get 2 new cards for the Russians. This is my first one, Stavka, Central Army Command. Oops. Place the top card in the discard pile into your hand. Well, do I want that? Play before 1 German attack, both players roll a die, the loser. Yeah, that sounds kind of cool, but I'm going to hold on to this to make my decision because maybe I want to spend this instead for my replacements. That's one of the problems. In strategic reserves, I can play this at the conclusion of either player's combat phase. Return to the map 1 Soviet unit in the eliminated or shattered box via rail movement. Well, I definitely like that. That's at least as good. That's actually better, right? Play at the conclusion of either player's combat. See, it could be canceled by a possible card. I don't think it's any better than just recuperating a unit at this point. Because if I leave a big gap, I don't know. And this one's a nice card because I can cause an additional loss in a combat maybe or something. Well, there's no harm to playing this. We might pull a cancel card out, but the Germans don't have anything like that. So now I've got both of these. Now, here comes the trouble. I've got to figure out what kind of line I can build to defend. Now, the only things I can do is I can drop cards to pull some of these. It would cost 2 to get this guy back. It would cost 1 to get this guy back. I've got 2 cards that I kind of like. So, this is where the game gets difficult. Sometimes you got cards you don't need, and it's very easy to say, yeah, I'll get rid of that. But here, the strategic reserves, that doesn't terribly help me. So I'm going to play that to make sure it doesn't get canceled during my recuperation. And I get this unit with a little blinker. And I can pretty much put that in any city I like. I'll try to keep the Russian cards over here because they're not as far away. And now I got to figure out my defensive line. I do not want to lose Leningrad. That is key. Therefore, if I put my unit here, I can still move it. 1, 2, 3. That'll help me defend there. I don't think he can get through there easily. Smolensk looks like an important place to hold. You know, I think I can pull my reserve out from Moscow to do that. Alternatively, and this is kind of interesting, woods are only 1 movement point each. So I could do 1, and rivers don't cost, 2, 3, and kind of build a firmament in my line here. Because the Germans aren't going to be able to get through there. Alright, let's see what we're doing here. Here, I think I want to defend along the Dnieper. And I'll just give this area up. But I feel like I want to move forward. I've got a hole here. There's not much I can do about it. I'm going to have holes somewhere. The Germans are going to be able to exploit them and cause problems. This is the best I can think of. Now, what is the problem? The problem is this. I'm adjacent to German units. How terrible is it if I attack? Well, that could cause breakthroughs. Breakthroughs I don't want to have happen. So instead of this defensive line, I'm going to take this one. I'm falling back to there. I'm giving Riga up. The naive person who's used to normal games would have gone with that line that I saw, but I know that that's dangerous. The German player has cards, and the thing I was constantly asking my opponent last game, my wife, hey, do you have cards? How many cards you got? She tended to use hers for reserves all the time, building up her forces. Draining that hand, that caused real problems. Now, what about this? Play before a German attack. I want to keep this. I think there aren't many other options anyway. All I could have done was recovered this stronger unit. That's the end of the first turn. And as you can see, the turns are fairly short because there's very low pieces here, except as you get deeper into the game, more and more thinking is going on. You're starting to see, well, wait, now if I cut that off, what happens? How can I gain control of that? Where are my reserves coming in? Will I have time to get that there? All kinds of thinking, because it is such a small puzzle that you really do have the opportunity to kind of try to build your perfect line, your perfect solution, your defense, the thing that cannot be broken. You have that opportunity, and you don't always have that in most games. There's another question. Did I want to move my Leningrad unit up? I could have used that here, could have pulled back here, and could have moved into a place here in the woods. The Germans can't get there. That actually sounds even more appealing. What are you doing, dude? Changing your mind on every move? Yeah. I don't see a problem with that, to tell you the truth. Okay, so this guy was back here. Here's the problem with this. Leningrad becomes open. The Finns can't jump in there. They have no mobility no matter what you do. But that Leningrad fortification unit, I have to make sure that I look at my chart. I won't be able to fortify next turn, will I? No, I can't do that till turn 3. On turn 3, I've got to get that fortress unit back. I have to get that fortress unit back next turn so that on turn 3, I can convert it to something safe. But right now, this looks fairly sturdy for a Russian line to me. Yeah, there's a gap here, but it's stronger than I'm used to seeing in this game. And I like the idea of giving ground with the Russians early on in any East Front game. Oh, I have one more thing. I have this. Where's a weak point? Here's a weak point. Let's add an extra strength point there, just make it a little harder on the Germans. You might want to say, wait a minute, why don't you... Because with the Germans, if they get the right card and get a breakthrough or something, they could do a Panzer Blitz and end up in Leningrad. This is risky behavior for me to leave that open. But I think I can retreat successfully so that I can kind of cover it so that he can't come charging through. So I'm saying I'm good with this. I'm going to load this one up. I know I took a lot of time on this first turn. A couple of backtracks, new actions, stuff like that. But it helps show some of the kind of thinking that is going on in this game. I'm sure there's an opening move book, as it were. I probably screwed it up in the south. I think I could have gotten a surrender that way. But I don't know. For me, I'm still playing around with the game. I don't like reading opening move books. I don't like playing by that kind of thing. It's just not my style. I'd play chess or Go if I really believed in that. I certainly don't play chess much. Up it goes.